Starfinder Society Invasion's Edge. Scenario 1-00. Collision's Wake. By John Godek III. Summary. The PCs are mercenaries patrolling Akiton at the behest of the Starfinder Society when they see a massive starship crash in the nearby Sloughscar Hills. Exploring the wreck, they learn about the vessel and its occupants' plans to invade the Pact Worlds and encounter reality-warped creatures and dangerous magitech defenses. When an alarm is triggered, the PCs must flee the site to escape from a horde of robots and a massive spider-like creature made from light and technology. Where in the universe? In this adventure, the PCs explore a crashed starship that will soon be dubbed the Wreck of the Returned. This starship has crashed in the Sloughscar Hills on the planet Akiton, a region composed of hardened clay stone and solid formations of mafic rock. Its rocky hills hold numerous rifts, crags, caves, and cliffs, which are the byproduct of eons of erosion by high wind and periodic encroachment of the glaciers of the Winterlands to the south. For more on Akiton, see Starfinder Galaxy Guide pages 13-14. Akiton. The battlefield. Gravity. Low. Atmosphere. Thin. Day, 24 hours. Year, 2 years. Akiton is a dusty, red world of sun-baked deserts, run-down cities, and rusting scrapyards. The planet was once a booming industrial paradise overflowing with wealth. From mining Thasteron, a starship fuel that fell out of favor after the discovery of drift travel. Now, Akiton is a decrepit battlefield for corporate interests, crime families, and survivalist communities. This downtrodden world's residents seek new opportunities and ways to survive on their dying, lawless planet. There is perhaps no greater mystery within the Pact Worlds than the origins of the so-called First Ones, an advanced civilization from antiquity, whose true name is unknown and whose legacy is enduring. First Ones' wrecks and ruins are few, and their mind-bending architecture and deadly magitech sentries make exploring and understanding them a dangerous task. However, there's no doubt that the First Ones thrived in the Pact World system at some point, as their actions seeded Abalon and the Sun with their robotic creations, anicytes and protocytes, respectively. Smatterings of First Ones' intervention are found throughout the wider cosmos, forming a puzzle only the most dedicated tech priests and researchers attempt to decipher. Last year, the Starfinder Society conducted an archaeological survey of Eternity, an ancient city of the First Ones on the planet Abalon. During this excavation, they uncovered tantalizing clues about the First Ones and clashed with a violent sect of anicytes, known as those who call, who attempted to destroy the Abalonian capital city of Striving and dispatch a signal meant to draw the First Ones back to the Pact Worlds, an event the Starfinders believe would cause system-wide catastrophe. Although the Starfinders triumphed against those who call, saving the megaplex of Striving and Abalon's government, they were too late to prevent those who call from dispatching their signal. What's worse, the signal was received. The First Ones are coming unable to monitor the entirety of the Pact Worlds alone. And with the Pact Council busy with other matters, the Starfinders have hired thousands of mercenaries to keep a wary eye out for potential invasion. When a mysterious starship crashes into Akiton's surface, one of these mercenary teams is among the first to enter and explore the wreck. The player characters, PCs, play as these freelance mercenaries, the first to explore a crashed starship that will soon be dubbed the Wreck of the Returned. But they're not alone. A team of local explorers called the Rust Wraiths is also on site, and their paths are destined to cross with the PCs both now and in the future. Welcome to Invasion's Edge, the first season of Starfinder Society for Starfinder 2nd Edition. Getting started. The PCs are mercenaries who have been hired by the Starfinder Society to investigate any phenomena that could be related to an ancient alien civilization called the First Ones, who the Starfinders believe are on their way to occupy or invade the Pact Worlds. The PCs have been assigned to patrol the western half of Akiton's southern hemisphere, including the Kaviri Plains, the Sloughscar Hills, and the southern ice caps of the Winterlands. Their directive came via recorded holovid of First Seeker Sarmak, inquisitive male Izalgon electrical engineer, elected leader of the Starfinder Society. Read or paraphrase the following to get the adventure underway. A hologram of First Seeker Sarmak, elected leader of the Starfinder Society, fills the air, looking grim. Larger than a car and dressed in shimmering bronze tactical armor, Sarmak stands on 4 of his muscular limbs, while gesturing with the remaining 2, cutting an imposing figure. Thank you for taking up this mantle of responsibility at a time when the Starfinder Society, no, the entire Pact Worlds desperately needs you. A dangerous conflict is coming, but we don't know when or where it will first manifest. Last year, the Starfinder Society encountered a violent cult bent on drawing the mysterious First Ones back to the Pact Worlds to rule. While we prevented this cult from destroying Abalon's government and capital city, we were too late to prevent them from dispatching their transmission to the First Ones across the galaxy. Unfortunately, this signal was received: the First Ones are coming. Sarmak pauses for breath briefly, before continuing. We are unable to monitor the entirety of the Pact Worlds alone, and with the Pact Council busy with other calamities, we have sought out dedicated freelancers such as yourselves to keep a wary eye out for potential invasion. Little is known about the origins or plans of the First Ones, as they've long been absent from the Pact Worlds. We know long ago they seeded the planet Abalon with robotic life, and what wrecks and ruins we've explored have been incredibly dangerous, filled with advanced technology, automated defenses, magitech sentries, volatile magic, and mind-bending architecture. Should you see or hear of anything unusual, immediately investigate and report back to me as soon as possible. Stay vigilant and be careful. The fate of the entire system could be in your hands. 3 months have passed since the PCs received this message from First Seeker Sarmak, so they've already had time to learn about the First Ones and the region of Akiton they're patrolling. They can attempt the following skill checks to determine what additional information they know. A PC can substitute a relevant lore check to recall knowledge, rather than the listed skills, reducing the DC of their check by 3 if they do. Diplomacy, gather information, or society, recall knowledge. A PC who succeeds at a DC 18 diplomacy check to gather information, or a society check to recall knowledge, knows the following information about the First Ones. Critical success as success. Plus, after a recent excavation of a First One city on the planet Abalon, the Starfinder Society claimed the First Ones were dangerous conquerors who destroyed a planet's native inhabitants before seeding the planet with artificial laborers and systematically stripping the planet of resources. Their theories have been questioned by many citizens of Abalon, and their findings are currently undergoing external peer review. Success? No one knows who the First Ones were, what they looked like, where they came from, or where they went. However, the First Ones left behind traces of their presence on the planet Abalon and in the depths of the Pact World's sun, including ancient buildings packed with advanced technology and a workforce of self-improving robots. In time, many of these robots became sapient beings called anacytes or protocytes. Critical failure. The First Ones are godlike characters in a creation myth spouted by a society of intelligent robots to explain their existence. These robots are called anacytes. The First Ones are not real. Diplomacy, gather information, or nature. Recall knowledge. A PC who succeeds at a DC 18 diplomacy check to gather information, or a nature check to recall knowledge knows the following information about the planet Akiton. Critical success as success, plus the Kaviri Plains are a warm and windy region that transitions slowly into the rocky hills, cliffs, and caves of the chilly Sloughscar Hills. The southern reaches of the Sloughscar Hills are frigid and icy, as they meet the vast glaciers of the winterlands on the planet's southern ice capage. Success, Akiton, is a world of barren deserts and blasted wastelands. The planet lost much of the atmosphere and liquid water it once held due to the slowing of its liquid iron core and the resulting weakening of its magnetosphere. Critical failure, Akiton, is a planet of sweltering red deserts with no reprieve from the heat or sun. The collision. The PCs are patrolling the southern reaches of the Kaviri Plains when a massive starship careens through the sky and crashes in the Sloughscar Hills. Read or paraphrase the following aloud. A sudden burst of color and magic illuminates the midday sky as a massive object appears without warning in the upper atmosphere. A moment later, a bone-rattling boom heralds its arrival. Engulfed in flame and magical energy, the ovoid object careens toward Akiton's surface, at speeds certain to crack the planet in half. Just as impact is imminent, the object decelerates. An explosion engulfs the southern horizon, followed by a shockwave of gale-force sonic winds. As the sounds fade, dust and earth fill the air, blotting out the light of the sun. Through the reddish haze, shifting lights remain a beacon, marking the site of collision somewhere in the Sloughscar Hills. The force of this collision devastates the surrounding region and blankets the entire southern hemisphere in a pall of earth and debris that will take weeks to settle. While the PCs are too far from the impact site to be physically harmed, the force of the blast and ensuing winds are strong enough to knock them prone and leave them deafened and dizzy for several minutes. After they regain their senses and equilibrium, the PCs realize two facts. First, something artificial has crashed into the nearby Sloughscar Hills, and second, First Seeker Sarmak would want them to investigate it. When the PCs are ready, they can depart for the impact site aboard DVs, compact and sturdy hover vehicles designed to endure in Akiton's windy deserts while hauling salvage. Each DV can hold up to 3 medium or smaller creatures. Large creatures count as 2 medium creatures for this purpose. After the PCs decide how many DVs they have and who's piloting each one, proceed to impact site below. Hero points. When the PCs depart, remind the players that they each have 1 hero point available. Impact site. It takes the PCs 8 hours to reach the crash site by DV. The PCs arrive in the evening to find a field of devastation caused by the collision of a strange alien starship page. Read or paraphrase the following. Signs of impact are obvious, with wreckage strewn across the hillside in huge, jagged chunks, as far as the eye can see. Deep gouges permeate the underlying red rock where a massive object scraped the soil clean before plunging itself into the dusty red surface, pulverizing boulders in the process. Here and there, flames, smoke, colorful gas, and magical energy seep from the wreckage. The massive, generally ovoid alien object appears breached in several sections. A powerful gust pours forth from one of the jagged holes in its exterior, swirling nearby sand and debris, then reverses, giving the eerie impression the strange structure is breathing. The PCs can examine the wreckage and surrounding area to learn information about the wreck. A PC that succeeds at a DC-17 piloting, physical science lore, or warfare lore check confirms that the object is an alien starship of unknown make. Further, the impact's nature suggests the starship intentionally slowed just before impact, burying much of the hull and reducing damage to it. A PC that succeeds at a DC-18 crafting check determines the vessel is constructed of a unique alloy that combines metals native to the Pact Worlds with some of unknown origin. The identifiable metals include orichalcum, a rare star metal that warps space-time around itself on a quantum level, and noqual, a star metal resistant to magical effects. A PC that succeeds at a DC 18 Arcana check identifies that the non-native alloys in the hull have magical or quantum dampening properties as well. A PC that succeeds at a DC 16 Perception or Survival check notices tracks from a number of small insects in the area, leading into the wreck. When the PCs are done attempting skill checks outside the wreck, they encounter another mercenary crew called the Rust Wraiths. The Rust Wraiths. The Rust Wraiths are a team of local mercenaries led by Kivit, charismatic female hilky human mastermind. They also spotted the incoming crash and quickly located the site, arriving shortly ahead of the PCs, but approaching from the opposite direction. They intend to explore the wreck's interior for valuable technology and salvage. Read the following when the Rust Wraiths arrive on the scene. 5 figures emerge from the debris field, each armed, armored, and clearly experienced in the field. They quickly assume tactical positions, with a large, heavily armed bruiser up front and 4 smaller humanoids flanking on either side. "Hi, new friends," a chipper green skittermander exclaims, breaking formation to wave enthusiastically. "I'm Gremic. Isn't this wreck the coolest? It's huge. Ignore him." The muscular shobhat in front shouts, grenade launcher out and ready. "Stop right there, or I'll blow ya sky high." "Yeah, we got here first, so it's our salvage," exclaims a mottled gray Isoki. Beside them, a red-scaled Ikshti assesses everything with a shrewd eye. A slender human woman with bright red skin and white hair raises a hand, causing her allies to fall silent. "My name's Kivit," she calls out with a smile. "Leader of the Rust Wraiths Mercenary Company. Are you here to explore this wreck too?" The Rust Wraiths are bold but practical. They understand that a ship this size has plenty of loot to go around, so they see no need to fight the PCs, particularly when they know other salvagers are bound to be on the way, so time is of the essence. After the PCs have a chance to introduce themselves and explain their intent, Kivit suggests the Rust Wraiths explore one side of the wreck while the PCs explore the other, deferring to whichever side the PCs choose for the sake of time. If the PCs agree, Kivit shares her comm number with the PCs before departing, in case either team runs into trouble. Entering the wreck. When the PCs are done speaking with the Rust Wraiths, they can enter the wreck through any of the large holes or gashes in the exterior hull. Regardless of which entrance they choose, they maneuver around debris, squeeze through a dented maintenance duct, then emerge into the research deck, Area A, meet the Rust Wraiths. The Rust Wraiths include the following members: Kivit, charismatic female hilky human mastermind, the respected leader of the Rust Wraiths. She's confident, clever, and understands how to best motivate each member of her team. Bo Shake, intimidating male shobhad bruiser, the muscle. He's boastful, reckless, and attempts to intimidate anyone smaller than himself with his imposing size. Gremic, friendly male skittermander engineer, the heart of the team. He's talkative, eager to help, and a skilled mechanic. He aims to befriend the PCs, much to the chagrin of his teammates. Nima, cunning female Iksheshti programmer, the smart one. She's cool, calculating, and a talented spellcaster. She probes for information about the PC's strengths and weaknesses, just in case this encounter turns violent. Tade, opportunistic, non-binary Isoki sharpshooter, the greedy one. Agile, aggressive, and a crack shot. They don't want to cede anything to a rival team. They're rude. Research deck. Dim emergency lights dangling from the ceiling illuminate a heavily damaged room filled with several desks and chairs. In the north, debris has fallen from the ceiling and landed in a shifting mound, while in the east, the floor has fallen away, exposing the deck below. Along the outer walls of the space are several other rooms, which look in similar states of disarray. The research deck was heavily damaged in the crash, with gaping holes in the walls, floors, and ceiling. The doors on this deck are all broken, ajar, or unlocked. The ceilings are 20 feet high. Emergency lighting sheds dim light throughout. Use the map on page 7 for this area. The PCs enter through Area A1 and can leave through Area A6 by climbing down to the lower deck through the hole in the floor. All other exits from this area have collapsed and are no longer traversable. Aside from the debris in the north, Area A2, there is surprisingly little detritus spread throughout the space considering the damage to the floors and walls. This is due to the Shefex in Area A4 that have entered and begun to feast on the material in the space. It's likely the PCs draw the attention of these Kefax shortly after arriving, while exploring Area A1. A1. Research modules. A series of research modules fill the central portion of the research deck, aligned in 3 rows that run north to south. Each research module includes a white tabletop with glowing lines and symbols shimmering beneath the surface, a chair, and privacy walls, although the chairs were not bolted to the floor and are now strewn about the space haphazardly. Computers. A PC that examines any of the tabletops and succeeds at a DC 16 Arcana, Computers, or Crafting check, or a DC 18 Perception check, notices that each tabletop is a Magitech computer, which requires both a physical and magical input to operate. Accessing one of these computers requires both a DC 16 Computers check to hack and a DC 16 Arcana, Nature, Occultism, or Religion check. These checks do not need to be completed by the same PC. If the PCs successfully access the system, they can sift through the research module, which contains information on the Pact Worlds and its inhabitants, identifiable by numerical and image data, but all written in an unidentified language. A PC that succeeds at a DC 18 Computers or Society check to decipher writing determines this language has similarities to Trinary, a language spoken on the planet Abalon. Developments. If the PCs make a lot of noise while exploring this area, they draw the attention of the Shefex in Area A4, who scuttle out to attack the PCs. See Area A4 on page 10 for more information. Atwu. Debris mound. Trivial. The ceiling in this area collapsed during the crash, crushing the delicate Magitech device beneath and burying it under a mound of debris. This damaged device reacts dangerously in the presence of organic matter, which has prevented the Shefex in Area A4 from approaching too closely and consuming the debris. Hazards. When the PCs disturb the mound of debris, the Magitech device overloads, creating a volatile cyclone that degrades reality. If they haven't already been dealt with, this disturbance causes the Shefex in Area A4 to emerge and attack the PCs, combining the two events into a single moderate encounter. See Area A4 on page 10 for more information. Developments. After the reality cyclone has been deactivated, a PC that examines the damaged Magitech device and succeeds at a DC 19 Arcana, Nature, or Primal check, or a DC 17 Occultism check to identify magic, or a DC 19 Crafting or Computers check, determines the device enabled users to peer into alternate realities. A3. Study rooms. These study rooms are damaged, and their contents lay askew on the floor. A PC that succeeds at a DC 16 Crafting or Perception check notices that much of the debris, including the doors, walls, and pieces of furniture, has numerous insectile bite marks in them. From the Kefix in Area A4, Treasure, the study room in the northeast contains a spell gem of Dispel Magic. 2 End rank. The study room in the northwest contains a commercial Akashic lens. The study room in the southeast contains jump jets and 2 tactical electromag grenades. A4. Jeffok Nest. Low. These 2 rooms are heavily damaged due to the crash, and a group of local insects called shefax have turned the area into their nest. Part of the floor is black and pitted. The shefax have begun to consume this portion of the floor, leaving it covered in a foot of metal shavings and making the area difficult terrain. Creatures, shefax, are vermin found across much of Akiton, which consume inorganic material. These kefax entered the wreck looking for something to eat and have been steadily munching on the debris on the research deck. Unfortunately, the strange magical energies of the wreck have mutated these kefax, making them formidable foes. The reality-warped shefax are currently buried in the metal shavings. They emerge and attack any creatures that enter their nest in Area of 4. Make a lot of noise in Area of 1 or Area of 5, or trigger the trap in Area Atwu. A reality-warped shefax flees the research deck when reduced to 5 hit points or less. A 5. Archival footage. This room has a set of double doors in the center of its north wall, with one completely torn off its hinges and laying on the floor. While the shefax have begun to consume the materials in this room, a series of screens set into the table are still functioning. Each screen displays a recording that plays for a few seconds, glitches, then repeats. These recordings include the dapper undead entertainment mogul Zoo hosting a dangerous-looking game show, a Pact concert by sugar pop sensation Strawberry Machine Cake, First Seeker Sarmak fighting off robots while exploring a high-tech complex, and an Anacite wearing a blue cowl who looks directly at the camera while repeating a phrase in Tronary. The phrase is "come home." A PC that succeeds at a DC 16 society check knows that these events all occurred in the Pact Worlds within the last few years. ASICS, collapsed floor. The floor in this area has collapsed completely, providing access to the security deck area bone 30 feet below. Due to the low gravity on Akiton, a PC that falls down this hole is only dealt 5 bludgeoning damage. See the sidebar on page 11 for more information on low gravity. A PC that wants to make a safer descent can attempt a DC 17 athletics check to climb down. Alternatively, a PC can build a ladder from the scrap available on the research deck and attempt a DC 19 crafting check. On a success, this ladder can be used repeatedly. On a failure, the ladder breaks after 1 use, or midway through its first use on a critical failure. B. Security deck. The PC can reach the security deck through the collapsed floor in Area ASICS, landing at the east end of Area Bone. Use the map on page 9 for the security deck. The walls and ceiling are white and semi-transparent, but feel metallic to the touch. Lines of glowing circuitry run beneath the surface of these walls, shedding bright light throughout the entire lower deck. The ceilings are 30 feet high. Catwalks constructed from the same material as the walls and ceiling crisscross some of the halls. As shown on the MA page, these catwalks are 20 feet above the ground and don't have rails. The catwalks are difficult to see from below. DC 16 perception check to notice, unless a creature is standing on them or a catwalk has been pointed out. Bone. Entry. The PCs enter this corridor from above, coming down from Area A6 through a gaping hole in the ceiling. The east end of the corridor is collapsed and currently a dead end. The PCs don't have enough time at present to remove this debris and unblock the corridor. 2. Security checkpoint moderate. 2 sensors set into the floor of this corridor intersection pulse with a pale blue light. Corridors branch off in various directions, with catwalks spanning several of them. Ladders in the northwest and west halls climb 20 feet, connecting to a catwalk and Area B3 respectively. Creatures. The diagonal corridors are guarded by the first of many robotic sentries that staff and defend the ship. In time, the Pact Worlds will come to know these machines as nodicites. The nodicite sentries move to attack anyone who enters the central junction or takes a hostile action. They prefer to open combat with their grenades. then close to melee and fight using their battering fist, aiming to keep intruders from escaping and following their targets throughout the lower deck. A noticite gunner currently stationed in the catwalk north of Area B1 joins the fight when a PC moves from Area B1 to Area BIO2. It attempts to capture PC in a reality cage, then fights at range from the catwalks with its integrated reality ripper, moving as required to maintain a good vantage point on the PCs, and even entering area before 6, or leaving the catwalks if required. All noticites are programmed to fight to their destruction. Low gravity. Akiton has low gravity. While in a low-gravity environment, the bulk of all creatures and objects is halved, meaning creatures can carry twice as much and jump twice as high and far. Physical ranged attacks are possible up to the 12th range increment. Instead of the 6th, creatures that fall in low gravity take no damage for the first 10 feet of a fall, and then take bludgeoning damage equal to a quarter of the remaining distance it fell. 3. Overwatch platform. This raised room is connected to 2 catwalks and overlooks Area B8 and the hall west of Area B2. Ladders off the north and south walls of this room lead down 20 feet, providing access to these adjacent rooms and corridors. A trio of noticite charging stations are inset into the ground in the southwest end of this room. Active noticite gunners return to this area between patrols to recharge and receive updated commands from the ship's primary network. 4. Storage area, moderate. Crates and canisters lie scattered haphazardly throughout this cavernous storage area, many with contents spilling on the floor. A magical tier in the east wall looks out onto a foreign planet, dark and damp, with crystalline tree-like structures and creeping black and purple fungal growths. This same fungus covers many of the surfaces in this room, spreading over it like an infection. A set of ladders on the south wall leads up to a raised platform 20 feet up, and double doors provides access to the corridor. This room was once a storage area that magically preserved any organic material placed within. The crash caused this room's magic to malfunction wildly, opening a temporary tier in reality, which pulled in organic material from another world. This tier is nearly closed, and while it remains visible in the east wall, nothing can pass through in either direction. Black and purple fungal growths pulled from this mysterious alien world grow throughout this room, having spread from the tier. Additionally, a family of wildebeests was pulled through this tier and is now trapped in this room. Creatures, 2 furious wildebeests, rage throughout this room, furious over their confinement and unnatural surroundings. The wildebeests attack the PCs as soon as they notice their intrusion. The wildebeests prefer to fight in melee with their horns and claws, using subsonic harmonics if they can catch 2 or more PCs in the area of their sonic roar, and firing quills at PCs who remain out of range. If one wildebeest is defeated, and the PCs left a door open, the remaining wildebeest attempts to flee through the doors when reduced to 10 hit points or less. Treasure. A PC that searches the room finds 2 commercial batteries, 2 tactical med patches, and a loosely stacked pile of 4 multicolored crystalline globes. Each globe is roughly the size of a melon, completely faceted and slightly warm to the touch. A PC that succeeds at a DC 17 nature check realizes these globes are a clutch of wildebeest eggs, and understands that the wreck is not a suitable environment for their survival. If they hatch here, it's unlikely they'll survive. This PC additionally finds shards of a similar crystalline substance nearby, indicating at least one of these eggs has already hatched. 5. Communication Center. Trivial. Several computer terminals are set in the corners of this irregularly shaped room. The larger terminal on the north wall is intact, while smaller terminals on the west and south walls are damaged and inoperable. In the west wall is a ladder that leads up 20 feet to a catwalk. Comms terminal, a PC that attempts to access the functioning terminal and succeeds at a DC-18 computer's check to hack causes the terminal to play a portion of the most recently studied transmission. A passionate but garbled voice speaking in trinary, they profane your artistry. Ignore your directives, thus we implore. Silence their defiance, thus we call, come home. At this, the transmission glitches, repeating the words come home ad nauseum. A PC that attempts to further access the terminal causes it to flash a message in large red letters, then lock. This message is in an unidentified language. A PC that succeeds at a DC-18 computers or society check to decipher writing determines this language has similarities to trinary, a language spoken on Abalon, and is some kind of warning or emergency shutdown. Creatures, one of the wildebeest eggs hatched an hour ago, and the newborn wildebeest trill wandered off, slipping through a vent and emerging into this room. It's currently wandering around and exploring the room curiously, occasionally pausing to roar with hunger. The trill is curious but cautious and isn't sure if the PCs are friend or food. The PCs can form a bond of friendship with the trill if they succeed at a DC-16 nature or performance check. A PC that offers the trill food gains a +1 circumstance bonus to their checks to befriend the trill. Each time a PC fails this check, the trill squeals in fear and flicks its tail, sending a single crystalline quill flying at the offending PC. The DC to befriend the trill additionally increase by 1, up to a maximum DC of 20. Ranged 1 action quill +8, range increment 30 feet, damage 1d4 piercing damage. If the PCs befriend the wildebeest trill, it follows them throughout the rest of the adventure and allows itself to be handled. It does not engage in combat and flees if the PCs cause it harm. B6, Central Theater, trivial. This large amphitheater has an upper viewing deck lined with seats surrounding a sunken stage below. Hazards. The amphitheater's magical holograms are malfunctioning due to the crash and emit a dizzying series of overlapping simulations involving space and a mass of ovoid shape. The PCs can disable this magical trap from here or recalibrate it in the theater control room, Area B7. Developments. If the PCs recalibrate the theater's simulations in Area B7, a new, clear simulation plays in this room. This simulation depicts the Pact Worlds under assault by an armada of alien starships, many similar in appearance to the wreck the PCs are currently exploring. These starships appear to be launching countless devices that look like silvery flower buds down to the surface of the planets and into the sun. As each lands, a swirling eddy forms, consuming the terrain and spreading, destroying the planets one by one until the entirety of the Pact Worlds is a void of nothingness. A PC that succeeds at a DC-19 Arcana, Nature, or Primal check, or a DC-17 Occultism check, to identify magic determines the swirling eddies are a magical effect that degrade or breaks down reality on a quantum level. 7. Theater Control Room. This room contains the controls for displaying simulations in Area B6. A PC that succeeds at a DC-19 computers, crafting, or thievery check, or a DC-17 Arcana, Nature, Occultism, or Religion check can recalibrate the Magitech device that controls the simulations. Once recalibrated, the simulation assault hazard is immediately disabled, and a single, harmless, but existentially terrifying simulation plays in the amphitheater. Bait. Armory. The north and south walls of this room are lined with wall racks that hold replacement weaponry for the nodosite sentries and gunners on this level. Many of the rifles and grenades have already been removed. Treasure. Each PC can collect 1 tactical reality ripper and 2 incendiary grenades. The statistics for the reality ripper are on the chronicle sheet at the end of this adventure. 9. Maintenance Bay. This wide space is an automated maintenance and repair bay for the nodosites. Racks of spare parts hang on the south and north walls, while a multi-section conveyor runs east to west through the center of the space. A deactivated nodosite sentry sits in the southeast corner, its central power source and circuitry unlit, and its limbs lacking integrated weapons. B-10. Sentry Station. This space serves as the recharging station for nodosite sentries. 2 charging platforms are set into the floor at the southern end of this angled room. Running along the angled northern wall are 3 transparent metal cabinets. Each contains a deactivated nodosite sentry. A PC that succeeds at a DC-18 crafting or perception check notices these are earlier iterations of the nodosite sentries, with each of the subsequent iterations showing dramatic improvements from the previous. All are less developed than the ones the PCs encounter in Area B2. B11. Display. Each looks very different, both from one another and from the nodosites throughout the security deck. A PC that succeeds at a DC-18 crafting check determines these are non-functional replicas of unknown robots, likely for examination purposes. Further, they realize that both robots and the nodosites share some stylistic similarities, and were likely created by the same civilization. A PC that succeeds at a DC-18 society check determines these robots have some features eerily similar to anasites from the planet Abalon and protosites from within the sun that said, these models are very different from those currently found in the Pact Worlds, indicating these might be older, or perhaps the original models of the self-modifying robots that would become anasites and protosites. B12. Control Room. Computer stations and dozens of screens line the southern wall of this control room. Most of the screens display closed security doors, warehouses packed with strange Magitech devices, or hangars filled with rows of metallic objects shaped like enormous silvery flower buds covered with glowing symbols. One of these hangars is clearly damaged from the crash, and the broken devices within are pulsing with magical energy and look unstable. A PC that examines the screens notices the rust wraiths on one, clearly in trouble. Nima and Gremic are working to open a blast door marked with a unique symbol, while Kivit, Boshek, and Tade fight off several nodosites. This symbol is blurry, but if the PCs call Kivit on her comm unit, a PC that examines the computer console and succeeds at a DC-18 computers, or perception check, locates the same symbol and can press it, causing the blast doors to open. As the rust wraiths pile through the doors, they continue the fight. If the PCs press the button again, the blast doors close, preventing the nodosites from following the rust wraiths. Once they're safe, Kivit relays her thanks to the PCs over the comms. If all the PCs fail their checks to locate the symbol, the rust wraiths are left to fend for themselves. They flee back the way they came, disappearing off-screen with the attackers close on their heels. If the PCs have approached Area B13, a closed blast door marked with a different unique symbol, the PCs can take their time examining the console until they find the matching symbol and press it, causing the doors to Area B13 to unlock and open, and the turrets guarding that room to power down. If the PCs press buttons experimentally, they see a variety of hangars illuminate, blast doors open, and troops of nodosites activate across the screens. This method is, unfortunately, no good for attempting to help the rust wraiths. B13. Blast doors. Trivial. A heavy set of armored blast doors bars the path forward. The blast doors are closed and locked, and are marked with a unique symbol, a trio of overlapping circles split by a line, and poised above an inverted triangle. If the PCs press the matching button on the computer console in Area B12, this door unlocks and opens, which also deactivates the turrets detailed under hazards below. Otherwise, The PCs can unlock the doors by succeeding at a DC 20 crafting or thievery check, or they can push them open by succeeding at a DC 20 athletics check to force open. Hazards: a pair of ceiling-mounted laser turrets defends the approach to the blast doors, automatically firing on anyone it sees. The turrets power down when the PCs press the button in area B12 to open the blast doors. Sound the alarm. When the PCs pass through the blast doors, they enter a cavernous hangar filled with strange Magitech devices and inactive robots. Moments after entering, an alarm sounds and the wreck's automated defenses are activated, forcing the PCs to flee the wreck to survive. Read or paraphrase the following when the PCs pass through the hangar doors. This massive hangar contains rows upon rows of inactive notocyte robots and at least a dozen freestanding metallic devices, each emitting a subtle humming and traced with faintly glowing lines and symbols. Suddenly, the blast doors slam shut and a feminine voice echoes over hidden loudspeakers, saying something angrily in an unknown language. With a chorus of beeps, the notocytes in the hangar power on, central eyes glowing and limbs beginning to twitch. The voice lets out a spiteful laugh as horns begin blaring and security lights flash red. An alarm has been triggered. With the blast doors sealed behind them and the robots within the hangar powering on, the PCs must flee for their lives. The only visible way out is by an exit ramp, which leads outside. Unfortunately, this exit has been locked down. To override the lockdown, a PC must succeed at a DC 16 computers, crafting, or thievery check. Alternatively, the PCs can manually disengage the locks by succeeding at a DC 18 athletics check. If the PCs repeatedly fail to disengage these locks, the notocytes converge on the exit, dealing 3d6 bludgeoning damage to all the PCs, DC 18 basic reflex save, and forcing the PCs to abandon the effort. In their ensuing flight, the PCs discover a ventilation shaft they can escape through instead, though it takes more time and effort. The PCs take a 1 circumstance penalty to all skill checks attempted during Run for Your Lives. Due to this delay, Run for Your Lives. Moderate, whether via exit ramp or vents, the PCs emerge from the wreck into the Sloughscar Hills. Their DVs are visible in the distance to the north, but countless dangers stand between them and their salvation klaxons sound. Exterior turrets emerge from the wreck's hull, and countless notocytes are close on their heels. What's worse, the ground begins to shake as the thunderous strides of some gigantic creature echo in the distance, snapping metal and shattering rock with every step. Something big is coming, and the PCs don't want to be here when it arrives. Running the chase, the PCs must overcome 5 obstacles to escape the wreck and its surrounding dangers. They face these obstacles in order and reach safety when they overcome the final obstacle. They overcome obstacles as a team and begin each obstacle with 0 chase points. On a character's turn, they describe what they do to help the group get past the obstacle they currently face, then attempt a check to represent their efforts. They earn chase points based on the result of their checks. Critical success, the PCs gain 2 chase points. Success, the PCs gain 1 chase point. Critical failure, the PCs lose 1 chase point. Each obstacle lists recommended checks to overcome it, but the PCs can suggest alternative checks, so long as they address the challenge posed by the obstacle. Creativity is encouraged. Use the listed skill DCs to set any alternate skills DC. When an alternate method applies automatically, such as through using a spell or class ability, the PCs can gain 1-2 chase points. When the PCs accumulate enough chase points to overcome the obstacle, they move on to the next obstacle. Extra chase points don't carry over to the next obstacle. However, anyone who hasn't already taken their turn that round can still take it against the new obstacle. Consequently, The characters best suited to overcoming the current obstacle might act first, since the remaining characters might be better suited against the next one. A PC who chooses not to act during a round automatically fails, gaining 0 chase points. The number of chase points the PCs have can never fall below 0. For a complete explanation of the chase subsystem, refer to page 214 of Starfinder GM Core. The Elemantula, at the beginning of the third round, a massive creature made of light, magic, and technology bursts from the wreck in a hail of rock and steel and rampages across the area, chasing the PCs. It begins at the first obstacle and moves 1 obstacle at the end of each round. Each time the PCs begin a round on the same obstacle as the Elemantula. Each PC is dealt 4d6 bludgeoning damage by the Illumantula, DC 18 basic reflex, turret gauntlet. Obstacle 3. Chase points 4. Overcome DC 17 acrobatics or athletics to jump and weave through the laser blasts. DC 16 computers, crafting, or thievery to deactivate some of the turrets. DC 18 perception or survival to identify the safest path turrets emerge from the hull of the wreck and unleash a barrage of laser blasts at the PCs, forming a dangerous gauntlet of laser fire and explosions. Noticeat assault. Obstacle 3. Chase points 4. Overcome DC 16 acrobatics to squeeze between the nodicites. DC 17 athletics to push past the nodicites. DC 17 computers or perception to intuit the actions of the nodicites. DC 18 deception or stealth to slip past without being noticed. A troop of nodicite sentries attempts to surround the PCs and clobber them to death. Maze of wreckage. Obstacle 3. Chase points 4. Overcome DC 18 arcana, occultism, or religion to scry the path ahead. DC 18 athletics to clear a path through the wreckage. DC 17 nature or physical science lore to intuit the layout of the wreckage. DC 16 piloting or survival to navigate the maze. Debris litters the region surrounding the wreck, forming a maze of jagged metal and shattered rock. Nanite wave. Obstacle 3. Chase points 4. Overcome DC 18 acrobatics or athletics checks to jump over nanite streams. DC 17 computers or thievery to scramble the nanite sensors. DC 17 crafting to construct a makeshift sled to ride the nanite wave. DC 16 nature or survival to understand the natural flow of liquids over the surrounding terrain and adjust course to avoid the nanite wave. The wreck releases a deluge of magitech nanites that surge across the area, flowing like a tsunami across the Sloughscar Hills. Reality cyclones. Obstacle 3. Chase points 4. Overcome DC 18 acrobatics to outrun the cyclones. DC 17 arcana, nature, occultism, or religion to understand the magic that drives these cyclones and siphon energy from them. DC 18 perception to spot a safe path through. DC 16 survival to understand the movement of the cyclones and avoid their path. Cyclones of warped reality tear across the last stretch of open hills, separating the PCs from their DVs. Developments after the PCs escape from the final obstacle. The reality cyclones, they reach their DVs and can pilot them to safety, blasting across the landscape at top speed. Behind them, the Elemantula unleashes a primal, bone-shaking screech before turning back to protect the wreck. A minute later, the PCs spot 2 armored hover trucks approaching them from behind the rust wraiths, who are also fleeing from the wreck. Their hover trucks are clearly laden with boxes, bags, and piles of salvage. It's likely the PCs stop to chat or call them over the comms. Kivit calls the PCs. If the PCs fail to initiate contact themselves, the rust wraiths are relieved to have escaped the wreck, but are down 1 member. Gremic died inside the wreck. Gremic's loss has cast a pall over the group, but Kivit does her best to keep the rust wraiths moving and focused. She asks, the PCs to meet up with them later that evening at a nearby bar called the Watering Hole, so the teams can compare notes on the wreck and their discoveries, and raise a toast to Gremic, who will be dearly missed. Conclusion. When they're ready, the PCs can report to First Seeker Sarmak over the comms. Sarmak is shocked by the team's findings and tells the PCs the information they've unearthed will play a crucial role in the Starfinder Society's preparation for the impending invasion. He dubs the ship the Wreck of the Returned and vows that the Starfinders will continue to explore the wreck to learn as much as they can about the First Ones and how to defeat them. Before signing off, the First Seeker congratulates the PCs on a job well done. He also gives them an open invitation to join the Starfinder Society as full agents should they wish. That night, the Rust Wraiths, cleaned up and their pockets heavy with credits, buy a round for the PCs at the Watering Hole as they toast their fallen comrade Gremic. They recount how Gremic sacrificed himself for the team's survival when the automated defenses activated, throwing himself in the way of a wave of writhing steel cables that tore right through him. Despite this gruesome impalement, Gremic fought to the end, taking out several more notocytes and enabling the escape of the rest of the Rust Wraiths. They solemnly discuss returning to the wreck one day to retrieve Gremic's body for his next of kin, though the discussion is half-hearted, and it's clear they don't believe they'll be able to follow through. With that final thought, they raise a toast to Gremic, saluting his loyalty and courage.